Welcome back to my channel Limelight Leaks. Please share and subscribe and hit the bell icon for latest updates. They treat everybody like they're Mormon, and it's nothing crazy. So whether you're Mormon or not, do you want to kill somebody? No. Are you going to lie, cheat, steal, rob? The alcohol thing, is a big one. It destroys people. It's really hard for a lot of people to drink responsibly. Dave Sparks, better known as Heavy D, was a legend, but legends can fall. And recently, the whispers that have followed him for years turned into a roar. Rumors of bankruptcy, of quitting, of a total collapse. At 41 years old, Heavy D has finally confirmed that those rumors are true. But the real story is far more shocking and complex than anyone imagined. This is the story of how the king of diesel was forced to destroy his own throne, and the truth of what he's becoming now that the smoke has cleared. In the middle of 2024, a video appeared on Heavy D's YouTube channel that sent a shockwave through his millions of fans. The title was simple but felt like an earthquake. "We're selling everything." This was no joke. This was not a prank. Heavy D walked through his legendary shop in Woods Cross, Utah, a place that was more like a museum of diesel craziness than a simple garage. But instead of showing off a new build, he was putting a price tag on his own history. Everything had to go. The iconic trucks that fans knew by name were on the chopping block. The Brozer, a monster built from a military truck, was for sale. The Mega Ram Runner, a beast so big it made other trucks look like toys, was for sale. His unfinished 6x6 Hummer project, custom tools, welders, and mountains of spare parts were all laid out for the world to buy. These were not just machines, they were pieces of his career, each one with a story that had been shown to millions of people around the globe. Heavy D tried to control the story. He spoke to the camera with a calm voice, saying it was a major life change. He said he needed to downsize and clear space for a new, much bigger business that was coming soon. He wanted everyone to believe this was a step forward, not a sign of failure. But his fans felt a gut punch. They saw a man who looked tired, a king who seemed to be giving up his crown without a fight. The comment sections exploded with questions. Was he going broke from the lawsuit? Was he facing lawsuit? Heavy D still owed millions of dollars in penalties. The court had ordered him not to sell any of his property or assets without permission. By posting that YouTube video and trying to sell everything he owned, he was found in contempt of court. The yard sale was not a bold new business move. It was an illegal act of desperation. The king was not clearing space for the future. He was trapped by his past, and that past was about to come crashing down on him. To understand how it all went so wrong, you have to go back to the moment his world changed forever. That began in 2016. It was the same year the show Diesel Brothers first aired on the Discovery Channel, making Heavy D and his crew household names. As their fame exploded, a storm was gathering right in their backyard. A group of local doctors in Utah, calling themselves Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment, filed a bombshell lawsuit against them. The doctors were not rivals in the truck world. They were concerned about the air people in Utah were breathing. Their accusation was simple and devastating. They said Heavy D's company was breaking one of the country's most important environmental laws, the Clean Air Act. The lawsuit claimed that the Diesel Brothers were systematically and knowingly modifying trucks to cheat their emission systems. They were accused of installing special parts called defeat devices, like delete pipes and custom computer tunes. These parts were designed for one main purpose: to allow trucks to roll coal. Rolling coal is the act of intentionally shooting thick black clouds of smoke from a truck's exhaust pipes. To many in the diesel world, it was a symbol of power and rebellion. But to the doctors and the Environmental Protection Agency, it was a serious health hazard. The doctors in the lawsuit called the modified trucks disease-generating machines. They argued that the black smoke was filled with toxic pollution that could cause everything from heart attacks and lung disease to cancer. To prove their case, the doctors did something clever. They bought a truck that had been modified and sold by the Diesel Brothers and had it tested. The results were shocking. The truck was pumping out 36 times more pollution and 21 times more dangerous particulate matter than a normal stock truck. The evidence was powerful. Heavy D and his team fought back hard in court, but after a long and expensive legal battle, the judge came down on them like a ton of bricks. In March 2020, a federal judge ordered them to pay a massive fine of $851,451 for their hundreds of violations. The judge also held the company's leaders, including Dave Sparks himself, personally responsible for the fines, meaning they could not escape the debt through bankruptcy. But the worst part was not the money. The judge issued a permanent injunction. This was a legal order that banned the Diesel brothers from ever again removing or tampering with emissions control equipment on any vehicle. This single court order effectively killed their brand. Heavy D had built his entire identity on being a lovable outlaw, a rebel who built trucks that were bigger, louder, and more powerful than the rules allowed. Now he was legally branded a polluter. The very act that made him famous was now illegal for him to perform. It was an identity crisis, not just a financial one. He could no longer be the rebel king of diesel. He had to become someone else, or he would have nothing left at all. This crushing defeat forced him to make a pivot so dramatic, so unexpected, that it left his most loyal fans feeling completely betrayed. Is built on the thunderous roar of diesel engines, the last thing anyone expects you to do is embrace the silence of electric power. But with his back against the wall after the lawsuit, Heavy D did something that sent shockwaves through the entire auto industry. He decided to go electric. He did not just buy a Tesla. He went all in on one of the most famous failures in modern history. In early 2024, news broke that Heavy D had bought the rights to the Nikola Badger. The Badger was an electric pickup truck that had been hyped up as the next big thing, only to crash and burn before a single truck was ever sold to a customer. The Badger's parent company, Nikola Corporation, was at the center of a giant scandal. Its founder, a man named, built a powerful off-road electric monster. It was a complete 180-degree turn from everything he had ever stood for. His loyal diesel fans were split. Some thought it was a brilliant move to clean up his image after the pollution lawsuit, but many others felt betrayed. To them, electric vehicles were the enemy, the exact opposite of the raw mechanical power they loved. Heavy D was now entering enemy territory, and the pressure was huge. The situation got even stranger. Despite Trevor Milton being a convicted fraudster, Heavy D publicly defended him. He went on video and called Milton a good friend, and said he believed Milton was doing things the right way. This caused another firestorm. Why would a man trying to repair his reputation tie himself to a man who had just been sent to prison for lying? It seemed like a reckless, self-destructive move. The deal itself was complicated. Heavy D's new company, Ember, got the rights to the Badger with no money down, promising to pay Nikola back over time. Nikola also kept a 30% ownership stake in Ember. Later, Nikola even sued Ember and Milton, though the case was eventually settled peacefully. But the damage was done. Heavy D's attempt to create a new, clean legacy had immediately gotten tangled up in a web of financial fraud and controversy. He had escaped the shadow of the EPA only to step into the shadow of a federal conviction. It was a high-risk gamble that seemed destined to fail. To understand why a man would make such a risky choice, you have to look at the life he lived long before the cameras ever started rolling. To understand the man who would risk everything on a diesel empire and a failed electric truck, you have to go back to the beginning. Dave Sparks was born on January 5, 1985 in Utah. His life was shaped by struggle and a deep need to overcome it. His father was his hero, a man who taught him what it meant to never give up. When Dave was young, his dad was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Doctors gave him only a few weeks to live, but he fought on for 20 more years. Dave watched his father get knocked down by health problems again and again, only to get right back up every single time. That fighting spirit was needed because the family faced incredible hardship. After his father was medically discharged from the military because of his tumor, the family lost their home. For 6 weeks, Dave, his parents, and his siblings all lived together in a van. They had nothing. His parents did whatever they could to make ends meet. From installing car stereos to delivering pizzas, Dave saw the pain and uncertainty up close, and it lit a fire inside him. He decided at a very young age that he would work as hard as he could to build a life of certainty for himself and his future family. His passion was always for things with engines and wheels. His very first project was a 1976 Yamaha YZ80 motorcycle. In high school, he spent all his time in classes for auto mechanics, welding and fabrication. He loved the feeling of building something real and powerful with his own hands. After high school, he tried college at Weber State University, but he only lasted for 1 semester. He knew he could learn more in the real world than in a classroom. He started out working for his uncle's construction company, where he learned to operate heavy machinery. Soon he started his own small excavation business. In 2008, he hired his very first employee. It was his best friend, David Kiley, a man he had met at a church activity. Kiley would soon be known to the world as Diesel Dave. This was the start of their legendary partnership. That hunger born from a childhood of struggle was now the fuel for a dream. Dave Sparks had the work ethic, the passion, and the perfect partner. He was about to build an empire bigger and louder than anyone could have possibly imagined. Before they were famous TV stars, Heavy D and Diesel Dave were just two friends with a passion for diesel trucks and a camera. They started by posting videos on YouTube. Their videos were different. They were not just about fixing trucks. They were full of crazy stunts, hilarious pranks, and an infectious energy that people loved. They were building a community of fans who shared their love for all things diesel. Their big break came from an unexpected place. One of their videos went viral. Mechanic. He was a master showman, and he catapulted the crew to international stardom. Their audience grew into the millions, and their small shop morphed into a massive business empire. By 2017, Heavy D was more than a TV star. He was a brand. He launched monster truck tours, signed huge sponsorship deals, and created a wildly popular vehicle giveaway program. Fans could buy merchandise like shirts and hats from their company, Diesel Power Gear, and every purchase entered them into a contest to win one of their incredible custom trucks. Their business grew to include multiple companies like Diesel Sellers, Sparks Motors, and Diesel Power. They had built a money-making machine fueled by diesel and charisma. But fame is a double-edged sword. The same television show that made them rich and famous also put a giant target on their backs. Every week they were broadcasting their rebellious, rule-breaking builds to the world. They were celebrating the very things that environmental groups and government regulators hated. Before the show, they were a local shop in Utah. After the show, they were the most famous diesel builders on the planet, and they were glorifying a culture of rolling coal. It was this massive spotlight that made the lawsuit from the Utah doctors not just possible, but almost inevitable. The price of their fame was a legal battle that would threaten to burn their entire empire to the ground. So let's go back to the rumors. Is Heavy D broke? Is he quitting? Did the lawsuit ruin him? After connecting all the dots, the answer is yes. All of it is true, but not in the simple way you might think. The old Heavy D, the one who lived and breathed diesel fumes and loved being an outlaw, is gone. And at 41 years old, he is confirming that a deep, fundamental change has happened in his life. The lawsuit did not bankrupt him in the way that he has no money left, but it did break his spirit for that kind of rebellion. It cost him a fortune, stained his reputation, and legally banned him from being the person his fans fell in love with. The rebel king was dethroned by a court order. His desperate pivot to Ember Motors and the Nikola Badger was not a smart business move. It was the act of a man trying to run away from his past. He could not be the dirty diesel guy anymore, not with the shadow of the EPA watching his every move. So he ran to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Clean, quiet electric energy. It was a move born from desperation, not passion, an attempt to build a new legacy that could not be attacked in the same way his old one was. And finally, selling everything. When a person goes through a massive life change, they often need to get rid of their old self. For Heavy D, his old self was made of steel, chrome, and rubber. Those legendary trucks were not just vehicles, they were symbols of the man he used to be. Getting rid of them was not a sign of financial failure, it was an act of personal freedom. He was clearing out the physical clutter of his past to make room for mental and emotional clarity. Building an empire at full speed for over a decade takes a heavy toll. The pressure to always be on for the cameras, to manage a huge business, and to fight a federal lawsuit all at the same time is enough to wear anyone down to the bone. Heavy D hit a wall. Instead of crashing and burning, he chose to pump the brakes and reset his entire life. He traded his diesel kingdom for a chance at a new beginning. The rumors are true because the man everyone thought they knew is gone. The character of Heavy D, the loud, rebellious king of diesel, became a prison. The lawsuit, the failed electric truck, and the massive yard sale were all just chaotic pieces of his great escape. What is left is